Welcome to the Champs App podcast, where we help players and parents demystify the world of minor hockey development and recruiting for both girls and boys. On this episode, I talk with Jackie Crum, who is the assistant head coach of the Wisconsin Badgers women's hockey program. We talk about coaching Brianna Decker and Hillary Knight, what coaches look for when recruiting, and of course, the Wisconsin women's hockey program. I really enjoyed this conversation with Jackie, and I hope you do too. Before we get to our guest, if you enjoyed this episode and want us to keep making more of them, please share it with teammates and friends. You can also subscribe, like, follow, and even better, it would be great if you would leave us a review. Now, let's drop the puck and get to the show. I'm very excited to have on the Champs App podcast, Jackie Crum. She's originally from Regina, Saskatchewan. She played 4 years of hockey at Wisconsin from 2001 to 2005. After that, she played a couple of years in Europe. And then she came back to Wisconsin as an assistant coach, where she's been for the last 11 years. She's won 2 NCAA championships in 2011 and technically still the reigning champion from 2019, since no winner was awarded last year. Welcome to the podcast, Jackie.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Jackie, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Just like every guest that we've had so far, it would be great if you could just kind of tell us your hockey history starting in Regina, Saskatchewan.
Oh boy. Okay, yeah. So I started playing hockey probably around the age, I'm thinking about 8 or 9, and started playing with the boys. I played a lot of boys and girls hockey. At that point, we only had in the entire city 1 girls team, so you didn't really have a choice on what team you played for. And there were no other girls teams, so our girls team would play against the boys. And then growing up, I played on a couple boys teams. I played high school hockey with the boys, and then also played on a midget girls team as well. And then
did you have any siblings who also played hockey?
I did. I have an older brother who played hockey, so naturally I wanted to be like him. And I actually, interesting enough, I started playing ringette when I was about 7. And I'm, I guess you could say, a physical player. So in ringette, you were allowed 5 penalties and then you were kicked out of the game. And unfortunately, because I was so much bigger than most of the kids, I would get 5 penalties and kicked out of the game. So at that point, I think when I was 8 or 9, my dad suggested that maybe I try hockey, and that might be more of a sport for me. And definitely it stuck. So yeah, good decision by him.
So for folks who don't know, you're 5'11" now. How big were you relative to the other kids, even at, around 12, 13, 14?
Oh, I've been 5'11" since I was about 13. So, I mean, I've been one of the taller kids pretty much my entire life. So yeah, that's, and more of a physical player for sure. So
okay.
I think.
And did that help you playing against the boys?
It did, yeah. I mean, lucky for me, contact started, I think, with the boys when I was about 10 or 11. And I was able to play contact boys hockey up until I was about 14.
And what are the pros and cons of being so tall when at playing hockey?
Oh gosh,
both at the youth level, and then even we'll talk a little bit about college. So
yeah, no, that's a really good question. So you grow so fast when you're young, and I would say coordination was tough for me, and just balance on the ice. So I was always a fairly good skater. It's just I didn't have great balance on the ice, and was strong, but also could get knocked over. And I think it took me till pretty much my freshman year in college when I started to, fill out physically and just become more coordinated. So I think players who are maybe smaller in stature have are able to kind of be a little bit more coordinated. Not everybody, I don't want to stereotype, but their coordination is probably a little bit better than somebody who has grown, 6 inches in 8 months like I did.
Oh, wow.
And you're just trying to figure out your body and where your arms are in space. And I remember my dad telling me to, maybe try not falling so much. I'm like, oh, duly noted.
Do you find 5'11", being 5'11", was helpful to speed because you could have a long stride length, or was it a little more challenging because you just have a lot more size to move around the ice with, to try and get around?
Yeah, good question. A little bit of both. I'd say straight ahead speed. Once you get going, you can get going. However, quickness. I mean, if somebody is 5'1", 5'2", stops and starts, somebody who's 5'11" maybe isn't as quick as somebody who's 5'1", 5'2". I mean, not everybody, obviously, but at least in my case.
Not Kendall Coyne.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't get the Kendall Coyne speed at 5'11".
No. I mean, if you can, all the power to you.
Great. And so So while you were still in Saskatchewan, what were some of the keys to your development, being so good? Was it playing with the boys? Was it good coaching? Was it, having a backyard rink and just being on the ice all the time?
Honestly, I'd say it's a combination of everything. We did have a backyard rink, as most kids do in Saskatchewan, and I mean, there's outdoor rinks everywhere you go. So I was able to take advantage of that. I mean, everyone has a different route. For me, I mean, obviously back in the 90s, girls hockey wasn't as prevalent. So I did have the opportunity to play boys. I did have some very good coaches in my youth. Still remember, my Pee Wee boys hockey coach, just learning back checking. I mean, gosh, who teaches back checking when you're 11, so just things like that I was fortunate with. And then, as I got older, I had the opportunity to play for Team Saskatchewan, just at the Canada Winter Games, and just was able to, play better competition and play with my peers and just have some really good coaches along the way with that. So I've been very fortunate.
So how did that transition to you getting seen by Wisconsin and the recruiting process? Like, how did that all work with you ending up at Wisconsin?
Yeah, so, oh gosh, I mean, back in the 90s, back in the 90s, things were different. I mean, I don't think college, I mean, there weren't as many college teams as there are now, and then also not as many college, I guess, assistant coaches or coaches were out in Western Canada recruiting. So I remember getting an offer from Wisconsin and then signing, and then in my senior year, and then I think it was February, another coach saw me from out east, and I was like, oh well, I had already signed with Wisconsin. I mean, obviously it was the right decision, but fortunately with playing with Team Saskatchewan, I was able to go to some national events that college coaches were at, and was able to get recruited at those.
And I'm assuming it was very different than the world is today,
Oh,
where you weren't going to like showcases and tournaments every other weekend, and then you did mention some of the Canadian development camps, I believe, but not nowhere near as much kind of a 2 year, 2.5 year engagement before they get married.
no, it's totally different back then. Yeah, I mean, I don't, I think we got mail from college coaches back when I was in grade 11, and then, actually talking to them, started my grade 12 year. I think that was when the rules were at that point. So yeah, it's night and day from back then till now, what it is. And I mean, not too many people were traveling up to, Regina, Saskatchewan to watch the next player play.
Yeah. And so tell us about your time at Wisconsin. How much did you develop while you were there? Tell us about what it was like just managing academics and hockey at the same time. And obviously
Yeah.
the programs even had a pretty good reputation back then, just as great as it is now.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, when I came, when I was a freshman, the program was only the third year in existence. So we were, I guess you could say, some of the pioneers of the program. And I think every year, actually, I know every year we got a little bit better as a program, which is awesome. So my senior year, we played in the that year they allowed 8 teams in the NCAA tournament. And so that was the first year Wisconsin actually made the tournament. So I was a part of that class. And unfortunately we lost in the quarterfinals, but the following year, when I was a 5th-year senior and helping out with the team actually won. So it was just really cool to be a part of I would say, the growth of Wisconsin hockey. And just, like I said, every year the team got better and better, and every year new recruits were coming in and were better. So that was obviously a key in my development as well, and helped me play. I played a couple of years on the under 22 Canadian national team too. So definitely helped with all that.
Nice. And what made you decide to go play in Europe after graduation?
Yeah, so I mean, I had the opportunity to play in Switzerland, and I've always wanted to travel, and that was kind of the driving force, and I guess you could say delay the real world a little bit. And so had a great experience in Switzerland, and then after that year, got another opportunity to play over in Prague and Czech Republic, and
A nice place to play.
yeah, beautiful city. Just definitely experience another culture. I mean, their culture is totally different than North American culture, and just coaching and all that. So great opportunity to do that. And then also, I mean, you're right in Europe, and the ability to travel is right there. And when you're young, early 20s, I mean, that's the time to do it because, you know, now with a family and 2 kids, we're not taking up a trip to Czech Republic anytime soon.
No, not until they can play hockey and get invited for a tournament over there.
There
Right?
you
Yeah, a few
go.
more
There you
years. Yeah.
go. Fingers crossed.
So, and then in 2000, I'm assuming sometime in early 2009, you got a phone call saying your alma mater needed some help because your coach, the head coach, was going to go help out with the Olympic team. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to get a phone call and needed a interim assistant coach, and I was ready to, I guess, kind of move on in my hockey career. And you know, I'd always thought about being a coach, and this opportunity came along, and I thought, yeah, what a great opportunity, even if it's just for a year. Try it out, see if I like coaching. Get my feet wet, and who knows what other opportunities it would lead to. So I did that, and then sure enough, the position opened full time, and I'm still here.
So what was it that made you want to become a coach? You say you kind of knew that at the end of your career that you wanted to at least give it a shot.
I did, yeah. I went to school for physical education, so in my mind, I mean, I always wanted to be a teacher, and obviously coaching is teaching. And I had always thought that I'd, you know, be a high school phys ed teacher and hopefully coach some high school hockey or midget hockey. And I just love the game. And so with the opportunity to be a full-time coach, obviously growing up, I never thought it was possible to have a career as a coach. And when the opportunity came, I was like, yes, sign me up.
What is it that you loved after your first year, that when you reflected on your first year, that you wanted to make the
Oh
commitment?
man. I think just being around the game every day. I love hockey and the X's and O's, but also just the players and having an opportunity to hopefully make an impact on them, positive, you know, as another female who's played, hopefully they can draw on my experiences and just leave them as better people and hockey players when they leave Wisconsin. So just having the opportunity to do that is awesome.
And didn't hurt that you had a pretty good team back then. So, in 2011, you won the championship, the NCAA championships.
Yeah.
And I believe your top 3 players, for folks who aren't familiar with these names, Megan Duggan, Hillary Knight, and Brianna Decker. Not too shabby players to have on your team that make you want to stick around for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really, really good team we had. So, I mean, those are just 3 of the many good players that we had. So
Exactly.
it was awesome to coach them. And I mean, I think by the end of it, we just kind of said, go get them, guys, and they did the rest.
Yeah, I actually do have a couple questions. First of all, did all 3 of them play on the same line? Because their stats are insane for that championship season.
They here and there, but not always.
Oh,
No.
so they spread the wealth with
A little
the
bit,
point
yeah.
production. All right.
Yeah.
So related question, Hillary Knight, also 5'11". Any advice that you were able to give her based on your height experience?
Oh boy. I mean, I'd say she's a lot more coordinated than I am, so not a ton of advice. I would say she's a very good athlete, skater. I think with her, I mean, I had the opportunity to work with her for 2 years, and she just had such a drive to get better. And I mean, you almost had to kick her off the ice. And I just remember hours and hours of spending with her after practice, shooting pucks, playing games, anything to get better. She did it, and that's definitely kind of why she has this success. That, I mean, obviously talent, but the success
Yeah.
that she's had is just this great work ethic that she has.
Yeah, that's awesome. Actually leads right into my next question, which is around Brianna Decker, who I watched a few games back during quarantine. I watched a few games from the old CWHL playoffs, and
Oh.
I could not imagine someone working any harder than she did on the ice, of just hunting down every puck and going after everybody. And tell me what your impression was versus how she arrived at Wisconsin versus how she left, how she developed in those 4 years, both on and off the ice. Because from what I saw in some videos, it's pretty impressive how far she came, even though she was productive from day one, but she still worked really hard while she was there.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I don't think many people know she actually broke her arm her freshman year, and she didn't play full season because of her broken arm. So that definitely set her back a little bit with that. But I think, I mean, she's always been a very aggressive player, but I think she turned the corner after her freshman year and really decided, I want this, you know, I want to make the national team. I have the opportunity to, and kicked her training into high gear. Just off the ice, on the ice, in the weight room, diet, everything. And we always said or say, you know, she's the player that if the puck is loose, she's going to get to it before you. And there's just hunger in her eyes. And I wouldn't want to play against her.
No,
That's for sure.
exactly.
She'll beat you up in the corner. And there's this drive that is so innate with her. That is awesome. And it was just fun to see her improve every year, every season. She got better and better as she went. It was, just a real privilege to coach her.
Awesome. And more recently, you have, I believe it's your captain is from California, which is my neck of the woods,
Yeah.
Annie Pankowski, who helped your team in 2019. Maybe you can just talk about her, how she ended up at Wisconsin.
Yeah. So, I mean, we recruited her back, when she was 14, 15. And I think, obviously she, I think academics and obviously the hockey program and chose Wisconsin. And, we're just fortunate along, that we were able to coach her and she was a part of our team and, certainly helped win that championship back in 19.
So let me ask you just one more question about Annie. Is when I looked, she was almost 20 when she started at Wisconsin. Did she take a post-grad year? And if either way, starting when she's almost 20, do you think that was helpful versus 18 at starting at a later age?
Well, actually, so she was centralized. Her would have been her freshman year. She was centralized with Team USA and then got cut from those Olympics.
So she took the year off to go train with the team and hopefully make the team, but unfortunately she didn't. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately she didn't make the team, but she also had that year or 6 months training with, the national team to help her. So I think that gave her a bit of a leg up coming into, Wisconsin, a little bit older, obviously more mature and have that experience.
Gotcha. Okay. So just shifting before we get more into Wisconsin, you also have helped out with Hockey Canada. You've worked with the U18 national women's team with some summer showcases and maybe some coaching at some events. Maybe just talk about your work with Hockey Canada and specifically when you're going to summer showcases, what is it you're looking for in players, in the Canadian players as they're, looking to make either an under 18 national team or the U22s?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to work with Hockey Canada with the U18 program, and then also been a camp coach with the U22 program as well. So it's quite a few years actually. Honestly, I don't even know how many years. And so it's went to a world championship as an assistant coach. I'm trying to look back, and I think 15, 16, they start blending together. But so yeah, that was an awesome opportunity. I mean, it's I don't know if you're looking for a specific thing in each player. I think it's very difficult. I mean, you have the top of the Canadian players when you hit that level, and obviously, I think speed, puck skills, and then just also how do they fit into the system that Hockey Canada is running that year. So that's kind of a main thing.
Gotcha. All right. So let's move back to Wisconsin. So first of all, let's talk about the facilities. LeBon Arena is dedicated just to the women's hockey team, which is outstanding. And I see that you have the arena capacity is 22,073, but your average attendance last year was 3,136. So I'm no math major, but to me, there's something weird going on there. Maybe you can talk about, playing a home game outside of LeBon Arena and just what it's like to play at LeBon Arena.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody fudged those numbers. I'm not too sure.
It's because you played a game against Ohio State, I believe, last year at the Kohl Center. So.
Oh, there you go. That's why. Right. Yeah. Fill the bowl. Okay. I forgot about that. So yeah, I mean, we seat about 2,200, but I'd say probably on average about 2,400 people are there, standing room only.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just, it's a great atmosphere. Anytime you can fill an arena to watch any sporting event is exciting, but a women's hockey game is just double excitement. And it's really cool coming from, playing in Saskatchewan and not even thinking that, coaching women's hockey would be a career to, playing at Wisconsin and having, a couple hundred people watching my game back in the early 2000s to selling out our building every game. It's just so cool to be a part of it, and feeling very fortunate, and just shows you how far the women's hockey game has come. And I think, the sky's the limit, definitely.
How big is the rivalry with Minnesota?
Oh, it's pretty big. I mean, it's been there since day one. I mean, since I played. I mean, it's in women's hockey, it's in men's hockey, it's in, I think, all sports. It's awesome. I mean, why not have a rivalry? I mean, every time the two teams play, I think we bring out the best in each other, and everyone's game elevates, and it just makes each team better every time we play.
Yeah. So, the Wisconsin program is just the model of consistency. You've been in the Frozen Four the last 6 years, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Under Mark Johnson's leadership. Let's talk about the coaching staff and kind of how you work together, and basically your humility is everything that I've read is just that you guys just just don't take anything for granted and work really hard. And for folks who don't know, Mark Johnson comes from a pretty famous hockey family. His dad is Badger Bob Johnson, and he also happened to score 2 goals in the Miracle on Ice game back in 1980 against the Soviet Union, and also had a really good career in the NHL. Plus, you also have another assistant coach, Dan Cook. What's the dynamic like between the three of you, and why people are so effusively positive about the staff and the program?
Oh, well, that's great to hear. I mean, I think we all go way back. We've known each other for, gosh, probably like 20 years. I mean, Coach Johnson, he coached me for 3 years. He came in his first year as our coach. I was a sophomore, so I had the opportunity to play for him. And then along with Dan Cook too, he coached me for 4 years actually. And so I think, just the relationship we have of knowing each other for so long is definitely helpful. And then just the consistency. I mean, we've been here for quite a while together, so that is great as well. Yeah, it's just, I mean, we all love the game. We all love working together. I think everyone enjoys waking up and coming to the office every day and working with our athletes. And yeah, just fortunate that we have this staff that we have here.
So how do you divide responsibilities, both for the on-ice stuff and for recruiting? From what I read, you work with the forwards, but how do you kind of decide who does what?
Oh boy, I mean, it ebbs and flows. I think definitely I work mainly with the forwards, Dan more so with the D. He's a D coach, and then Coach Johnson kind of jumps back and forth with that. From recruiting standpoint, oh gosh, I don't think we have particular areas that we recruit. We are, you try and cross-reference and cover everywhere that you can. And, if I, see a player that I like, mention it to Dan, and hopefully Dan can go out and see and Coach Johnson and, kind of talk about it from there. So we, it's not just that I have Canada and I only recruit in Canada because I'm from Canada, and, vice versa. Yeah.
Okay. And while players are there, what's the focus on skill development? Do you work on their skating stride? Do you do any cross pollination with the men's team? Because I know Tony Granado is pretty big on skill development on the men's side.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we work on that a ton. I mean, obviously during COVID in the fall, we had endless days working on skill development, but in a regular year, that's definitely a focus, certainly with that. And Coach Granado, he does do it a lot. And what's really awesome is just how both programs can work together. I can go out and watch a men's practice and, oh, what's he doing with the forwards, or what are they doing with their skill development, and take, whatever drill they're doing and talk to them about it, and then use it with our team, and vice versa as well. So, I mean, I think, players are never too old to work on skill development. And that's certainly something that happens, at Wisconsin, and I'm sure many other programs as well.
And so, as I mentioned earlier to you, I'm from Montreal, and one of the top prospects of the Montreal Canadiens is Cole Caulfield on the men's side of things.
Oh, right.
So
Yes.
I was just wondering, do you guys ever go and try and steal some ideas from Cole? And do any of the men's players come over and watch your practices and try and steal some stuff from you?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I think, Coach Granado and Strobel and Oz, assistant coaches for Wisconsin, definitely they work a lot with Cole, and I mean, every other player on the team too. And he's doing a ton of skills out there a lot. So, watching what he does, and I'm sure they watch a bit of our practices, and vice versa. I mean, the players do, but they also have school that they have to do too. But, typically in a non-COVID year, you can see a lot of them watching our games, and, they're friends with our team and vice versa. and a lot of our players will go watch a men's game as well.
Gotcha. And you guys are having a pretty successful season. You're ranked #1 in the polls. You're 11-2-1. Just tell folks just what the plan is for the playoffs. I believe there's a WCHA playoffs, which is the conference that you're in. And is there a plan for a Frozen Four this year?
Yeah, actually, so there only 4 teams make it to the playoffs this year in the WCHA, and so obviously, hopefully, we'll be there in a couple weeks. And then for the Frozen Four, we just found out that there's going to be 8 teams that go just in a normal year, and they're going to go to the host site. So instead of having 4 different quarterfinal games around the country, it's all going to be in Erie, Pennsylvania, and the quarterfinal games are going to be, I think, on a Monday and Tuesday, and then if you win, you move on to the semis, which would be a Friday, and then the championship game is on a Sunday. So a little bit different, but hey, it's happening.
You'll take it,
yeah, it's something. We're pretty pumped for it.
Got it. All right, let's move over into kind of the recruiting side of things. Girls hockey, as you mentioned earlier, has changed dramatically since you started playing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, from a recruiting perspective, how's the quality of player changed in the last 10 years?
Oh, I think overall it's increased, strength. I mean, players nowadays are able to, go in the weight room at a younger age. I mean, I don't know if I really started doing weights until I think I was a senior in high school. And, players nowadays are cross training, in grade 8, grade 9, they're, in the gym doing plyometrics, and a lot of people have personal trainers or in group, I shouldn't say most, but some club teams, even have a strength coach affiliated with them. And that certainly has changed. So I think the overall strength of female hockey players has increased with that just coordination and skill. I mean, a lot of, players are working on their skill development at an earlier and earlier age. So overall, I'd say it's increased.
Gotcha. And how has kind of COVID impacted your recruiting this year? Obviously, I've spoken to a few coaches so far, and obviously they're doing a lot of stuff on video. But how has it impacted it from a Division I perspective? What you think is going to happen going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think you ask any D1 coach, and it's been difficult. I mean, obviously, we haven't been able to go to any tournaments since last, I think March. And technically aren't allowed to go out until April 15th as of now. I mean, hopefully that will be the case, but I don't know if the NCAA will push it back at all. So yeah, I mean, we are, you're watching video that players send to you, and, if you can catch a tournament via live barn or, whatever streaming device that they use, you can do that, but it's also not the same. I mean, I personally would rather watch a player in person than via video. I'm sure many other coaches feel the same way as well. So, and then also with the NCAA granting everyone another year, that just makes, I guess, the puzzle of recruiting a little bit maybe more challenging with the D1 programs out there. And
especially if you're carrying a lot of players already this year.
Exactly. And, are the seniors coming back? Are they ready to graduate and move on? Are they transferring? It's just, it's definitely different.
So related to that is next year is an Olympic year, and their schools have historically had players from their team go to the Olympics. So I'm wondering if you think for those teams that might also impact their recruiting.
Definitely. I mean, for sure. It's, any team that has a player that may get centralized and off to the Olympics could, impact, because they'll be gone for a year and then back. So, hope that's the case with the programs that have players out there like that. You just don't know. And then also we don't know what the US or Canada is doing with their camps in the spring and what that looks like. So, I mean, typical COVID year, right? You just don't know.
Great. So in the past, you've been to many recruiting events, and I'm wondering what it is that you're looking for when you go to tournaments or showcases from players. Like what is it that Division I coaches get really excited about when they see a player in one of these events?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall D1 coaches are, obviously skill set is one, skating, just because as players find out as you move up in your, in your hockey career, the game just gets faster and faster. So in order to, compete at the next level, you need speed, having that skating ability. And then, I mean, obviously the intangibles, character, what kind of, a player it is. And I think a big thing is academics as well. I mean, players that have good academics, that just leaves the door open for so many different schools and opportunities that
You
they just have.
contextualize what good academics is? Is it like a
Ooh.
3.0? Is it a 3.5? Is it a 4.0? Is it a 4.4? What is good academics?
I mean, every school is different what they're looking for, but I think you're pretty safe if you're in the threes. I mean, I shouldn't say you're safe, but
You're looking good.
it's looking good. I mean, and like I said, every school is different what they're looking for from an academic standpoint. But the better your grade point average is, or in Canada your percentage, the more opportunities you're going to have. And academics, or with hockey, or even with maybe a bit of a hockey / academic scholarship. You never know.
Yeah. And so for most players who are serious about playing at a really good high-end D1 school, I'm sure Wisconsin is on almost everybody's top 5 list, if not at the top of that list. I'm wondering how many inbound inquiries via email, recruit questionnaires do you get, and how many, versus actually how many spots do you have in a typical year, which would, on average probably be in the 5 or 6 range. How many actual inbound inquiries do you get for those 5 or 6 spots, roughly speaking?
I honestly have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we certainly get, I don't count my emails, but we get quite a few emails a day.
Per day. So would you
Per
say
day,
like
oh, definitely.
in a year it's in the hundreds?
Oh, more. Yeah, definitely
Thousands?
more than
Okay.
that. Probably. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
honestly, I don't know, but I'm sure everyone's out there. Every school is getting quite a few emails. And you're right. Typically, D1 schools, it's roughly 5 to 6 players a year, give and take, depending on the year.
Yeah, doing the math, it's 4 years per player. So
yeah, exactly.
So of those people that like just submit something online via questionnaire, how many players actually played at Wisconsin after submitting a questionnaire that weren't on your radar?
I have no idea. I don't know if I can
Have
answer
you
that
found any of
question.
them?
I'm sorry. I don't know.
That's okay. I'm just curious if there's ever. I would assume that that's pretty rare that if someone just comes out of nowhere by submitting something online. But that's fine. I'm just.
You never know. I
Yeah, you
mean,
never know.
I don't know.
All right. So, what's the plan for the coming year in terms of what advice would you give parents, as they kind of deal with COVID winding down and kind of getting back, hopefully, into a more regular cycle of recruiting starting maybe this fall?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful. I mean, I'm not a fortune teller, but I'm hopeful things will go back to normal, and teams are going to be able to practice again and head out to tournaments. And I know there's showcases out there right now that are open, and players can sign up for not only that, or just even, I shouldn't just say showcases, but in Canada they have their provincial camps. I'm not sure where that's at, obviously, but in the States there's district camps, and hopefully that's going to continue. And maybe in the summer there's going to be USA Hockey, top 15, top 16, 17 camps as well. And if you're not invited, then maybe there's other showcases out there that you can look for. And I think a lot of D1 coaches and D3 we're eager to get back out on the road. I think everybody is. We'd love to actually see hockey in person versus watching videos online. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity this summer for showcases, and then also in the fall for tournaments. I think, once it starts going again, everyone's going to be just like so excited.
Any advice for either kids or their parents who are nervous, who are like 2022s or 2023s around a lot of fifth year seniors coming back, basically, that and closing some spots?
Correct. I think be patient from that standpoint. I mean, some schools probably don't even know what maybe the fall is going to look like, or in 2 years really what that's going to look like. So I mean, if you're 2022, obviously it's a difficult year just based on COVID, but if you're patient, and you're willing to get out there and being seen, I think that's going to help you as well. And just certainly it never hurts to send an email to ask a school where they're at with recruiting, and they may say, we're not quite sure at this moment, but if things open up, we'll let you know. I mean, and that could happen. I mean, there could be seniors that say they're coming back but then aren't coming back, or they may, scholarships for each school may be different, or yeah, it's ebbs and flows. So definitely be patient. Don't be afraid to reach out.
Okay, great. So one last question before I kind of wind things up with how people can get more information on the Wisconsin program. And I kind of mentioned to you this earlier. I've been saving this question. So you're from Regina, Saskatchewan, and so when I was growing up, 25% of the Canadian Football League teams were named Rough Riders, including the Saskatchewan Rough Riders, and there were only 8 teams, and there was 2 Rough Riders. Do you think there are too many teams in the NCAA named Lions, Tigers, and Bears, and Huskies?
Nice.
There's 3 Huskies, right? And there are 2 Bears, 2 Tigers, and 2 Lions. Do you think that, there's just one Badger, though?
There is just one Badger, correct. I mean, to each their own. But I mean, coming from Saskatchewan, there's only one Rough Riders in my mind. I mean, the green and white, like, that's where it's at, definitely.
And they have historically been a powerhouse in the CFL. So
yes, definitely. And, as a Saskatchewanite, you live, breathe, and die the Rough Riders. And my family's been season ticket holders since I can remember. So definitely the pride is right there.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. How can folks learn more about the program and maybe find you online, whether it's your website, Twitter, Instagram? How can they contact the program? Maybe fill out a questionnaire?
Yeah, definitely. Questionnaires are online on our website, uwbadgers.com. Definitely fill out a questionnaire if you're a player on there. We have our Twitter account, I guess Google, I don't know it off the top of my head, and an Instagram account, but just Google Wisconsin Women's Hockey and it'll pop up there. And then on the website, my email is out there as well too. So that's easily found.
And do you know if you're going to do any camps this summer? Like, is the school putting on one?
That's a great question. We hope to put on one. Usually we do a U13 camp in June, and then we hope to put on a high school camp in August. That's not set in stone just because of COVID and what's going on, but certainly when that's open to the public, it'll be on the website. So fingers crossed that's going to be a go, but if you're interested, I would say just keep looking on the website for that.
Awesome. Jackie, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Chance App podcast. This has been outstanding. It's great to learn so much about Wisconsin and your background and especially a lot of details around player development. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I really want to thank Jackie for coming on the podcast. It was great to hear her stories about coaching some of the best players in women's hockey, as well as learning more about the Wisconsin women's hockey program. And remember, if you got something out of today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like, follow, subscribe, and even better if you could leave us a review so we can keep sharing this important hockey information with folks just like you.